Ja was the star of this show and star of so many games this season. I mean, just a human highlight. But Memphis, they've won 8 straight games. So, Chiney, how dangerous, 9 straight games, excuse me, how dangerous is this team?
I mean, that play summarizes why they've been extremely successful, especially in this win streak. The Memphis Grizzlies have done it with defense, and I want to show you this. Producer Cesar had some numbers that we discovered. They're first in rebounds per game average, first in steals per game average, first in blocks per game. Their defense has held them down. It's been really impressive how they've really, I mean, but always surprised Memphis, you know, the nitty-gritty, the dirty. They do the dirty work. But also, it's another D, development, the development of their young stars. I mean, what can be said about Ja, what he's been able to do so far leading his team? And then you've got Jaren Jackson Jr., who's living up to the potential we all knew as a long, lanky, off-the-dribble type of post scorer that can stretch it out. And Desmond Bane, I mean, going from about 7 points per game to now 17, that type of collective growth on both ends of the floor has been instrumental to them. And that's where they're like at the top of the standings, surprisingly.
Chiney, you said something interesting, development. Normally, it's going to be growing pains and struggling while you're developing. These guys are developing and winning, and I think that's very important. This is a very dangerous team, and if things kind of stick to the way they are, I couldn't imagine what the second round Golden State versus Memphis will look like in the playoffs if things stay the way they are. But this is a young, hungry team that plays hard on both ends of the ball. And anytime you play hard on both ends of the ball, all those stats you just pointed out, Chiney, those are all hustle. You got to want to rebound. You got to want to get steals. You got to want to whatever the third one was. That's all. That's all effort stuff. You know what I mean? So offensively, they got a 3-headed monster with Morant. Brooks obviously out with a sprained ankle, but we know what he kind of made a name for himself in the playoffs last year. And then Desmond Bane, huge improvements on both ends of the ball. So he just makes this team that much tough. This is a very deep team. 5 guys averaging double figures, and this is a scary team that no one, including the Warriors, want to see in the playoffs. This is a very good team, and I'll say this, I hope that it works out for Ja Morant to make his first NBA All-Star because his numbers are there, the leadership's there. We just know how tight the West is.
Yeah, it's hard to see that not coming, though. Like, it feels like,
yeah.
Was it a block or was it a steal? I mean, I know how it was registered, but
it was just incredible. I don't even know what you want to call it, but I mean,
half block, half steal, all incredible.
His armpits on the backboard. You know, he's a guard. Like, it's crazy to think how high he's jumping on the lobs and the blocks. This kid's incredible.
Armpits on the backboard. Well, with that visual, the Grizzlies are going to host the Warriors tomorrow night. That is going to be an exciting game, but the Grizzlies are going to be without their second leading scorer, Dillon Brooks. So Brooks is averaging 18.4 points per game. Remember, he rolled his left ankle in Saturday's win versus the Clippers. And then yesterday, senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski reported that Brooks is expected to miss 3 to 5 weeks, and he could remain sidelined for a little while. So, speaking of Adrian Wojnarowski, he joins me now in studio, and Woj will be here for the entire week, bringing you news from around the NBA. But Woj, let's start with Dillon Brooks. Just how big of a concern is this injury for Memphis?
Well, listen, it's a significant ankle sprain, Malika, and, you know, like we reported yesterday, 3 to 5 weeks, but they haven't ruled out the possibility they could just sit him through the All-Star break in mid-February. But what you've seen with this Memphis team is, listen, their depth and the way their benches perform, the way their young players have developed, it gives them the ability to allow Dillon Brooks to heal, get better. Listen, their second leading scorer this year, certainly has become an elite defender for them. But they'll get him back, and this is a team that you saw without Ja Morant barely lost the game.
Right. So we're also just about a month away from the NBA trade deadline. So what are the Grizzlies' plans as we approach that February 10th deadline?
I mean, Malika, they love this roster right now, and I think it would take something a pretty unique opportunity for them to do anything dramatic. There's always some things around the edges, but with Memphis, watch this summer when they may have as much as $20 million in cap space and potentially 3 first-round picks. And so how do they maneuver that? You know, when it comes to the draft, can they use picks and players to maybe move up if there's a player they really want up high and having that cap space? So this is a team that's really set up well for the future. They got a point guard who's coming up on his rookie extension this summer. You can bet that's going to be a very quick open and shut negotiation for Ja Morant.
Absolutely. Yeah. We did see some moves be made yesterday that you reported, Bol to the Pistons for a second-round pick and Rodney Magruder. So what went into this deal, Woj?
Yeah, there's always so much interest in Bol and what is going to happen with him. Listen, I think for Denver, he just never really earned the trust of that coaching staff. And they're not in a development mode really right now in Denver. This is a team that wants to win. They're hoping they can get Jamal Murray back, Michael Porter Jr., perhaps both even this year they're hopeful for. But certainly moving forward, Bol Bol will go into restricted free agency this summer. I think, for Denver, for Tim Connolly, their president, I think to give Bol Bol a chance to go somewhere, get an opportunity to play, because it wasn't in Denver. And for Detroit, listen, they're in certainly a rebuild mode, and you're going to see them continue to take flyers on young players like Bol Bol, see if they can, develop them, maybe catch lightning in a bottle. He is skilled, and you've seen some flashes with him, and he's very unique at 7'2". But he'll get a chance to show, I think, play some more consistent minutes in Detroit than were going to be available to him with the Nuggets.
He's skilled. We could see him develop a little bit more, and we know that fans, Woj, they love Bol Bol. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us on NBA Today. And speaking of Memphis, they
watch my minutes at times, but we also need to win ball games as well. So I feel pretty good. I don't feel like that I'm playing 37 minutes a game or whatever. And it's also not the record for me. So my average season, we average 42 and a half for a whole season. So I even got a most minutes for the season plaque at my house. You didn't even know they gave those out, did you?
A plaque. All right. Well, LeBron's 36.9 minutes per game are on pace to be the third most in a player's age 37 season or older, trailing only Karl Malone and Michael Jordan from the early 2000s. So LeBron's 28.6 points per game are 5 more than anybody has ever averaged at this age. So if we're talking about LeBron, we have to bring in senior writer and host of the Hoop Collective podcast, Brian Windhorst. So, Windy, what LeBron is doing right now, do you think that's sustainable?
Malika, I've been asking that question for a decade now, and his answer has always been the same. I know my body better than anybody else, and I will do what I think I can do. You could argue that the injuries he's had since he's been in L.A., that groin injury and the abdominal injury, potentially could be related to overwork. But LeBron believes that he knows what he's doing. He's going to continue to do this. And what he said is important there. Even though these games are against teams like the Kings, they are must-win games for the Lakers. Because if you look at their schedule coming up, they have got a brutal rest of this month, especially the back half of this month. They've got a road trip out east where they are going to probably take some losses. And that means the games against the Kings, and they play them again coming up in a few days. Games against the Pacers. They have the Hawks, who are really scuffling coming in. They got to win those games because they have kicked away some games early in the season, and they know they're not going to have Anthony Davis. So when they get a winnable game at home and LeBron James can smell a victory, he's got to take it. And that's why he played so hard in the fourth quarter last night, and I expect him to continue to do so.
Absolutely. Richard, do you think that this is a sustainable load for him?
I think it's sustainable, but this is why they brought in Russell Westbrook, is so that you didn't have to do this type of load.
Sure.
You want to kind of balance him and Anthony Davis. Obviously, Anthony Davis is out. But at the end of the day, if LeBron is having to put forth a heroic effort against the Kings in the fourth quarter to get a victory at home, there are still problems in LA. They have not figured it out. We can talk about how great he is. We can talk about his numbers. But ultimately, they are still not playing quality basketball.
Well, and that's when it comes to, Perk, you good?
Wow.
You're saying you're agreeing? Are you sure?
No. Yes, I'm agreeing with RJ because, look, the Lakers their team is constructed for one reason and one reason only, and that's to win a championship. But you know what I will say? I want to say this real quick. LeBron James is actually delivering a message, in my opinion, to Anthony Davis and showing him that this is how you play the center position because LeBron is embracing it with open arms. It looked like he's having great joy playing the center position, rolling to the basket, setting screens, anchoring the defense, talking the coverages. And so what he's saying is that, hey, look, I'm going to show you how to embrace it. So when you come back, I want that same energy out of you.
Doing what needs to be done so his teammates will do the same.
Boy, it sounds like buyers, Malika. As I talk to people around the league, the Cavs are one of the most active teams. They're talking to 3 or 4 different teams about scenarios. They want perimeter players. They want guards. They've obviously had Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton out for the year. And they've got Rubio's contract now, $16 million. And they have a couple of valuable draft picks. They've got their first-round pick this year if they want to move it. Plus, they have the Houston Rockets second-round pick and the San Antonio Spurs second-round pick. You package those together with that Rubio contract, you may be able to find some help on the perimeter for this year. So the Cavs are being very active. I would almost guarantee that they're going to make deals beyond what they just did for Rajon Rondo.
Okay, so then let's move to the West, to the Lakers. You're hearing that the Lakers are making calls, but what exactly are they looking to do here?
Yeah, so they already offloaded a player in Rondo to create a roster spot, and they are looking to do more of that, Malika. From teams that I've talked to, they are out there with LeBron starting at center and eventually getting Anthony Davis back. They are looking to move DeAndre Jordan, not necessarily for another player, but to move him so that they can open up a roster spot. Kent Bazemore is another player that they've been willing to talk about in talking to some other teams. And I think, again, their goal is open up a roster spot. The Rondo move looks like it was going to be designed for Stanley Johnson to fill, but they may look in the buyout market for another player or two. They're trying to figure out how to do that.
So from east to west, let's go back east because we saved a little bit of fireworks for last. I want to share some sound from Hawks GM Travis Schlenk, who was not in a very good mood yesterday morning. So take a listen.
You know, maybe it wasn't such a great idea to bring everybody back. Like that's on me. And that's what, you know, we have a few weeks here before the trade deadline. That's what I need to figure out. And, you know, as you mentioned, it's, you know, there's only 2 times we can really make changes here, right? The draft, free agency, and the trade deadline. And, you know, it's my responsibility to put a product on the floor that can win. And right now I'm questioning whether or not I've done that. And maybe I need to lower my expectations for this team.
So, yeah, kind of went a little bit scorched earth there. Brian, what was the reaction around the league to those comments?
Well, the initial reaction when people heard it was, Travis, no, stop. What are you doing? Don't do that. You're saying the stuff that should stay private out loud. But I think this is a signal to the league that the Hawks are going to be open for business. They spent over $400 million to keep this core team together last offseason. And there are certain guys on their roster who are going to be untouchable. But the guy you got to keep an eye on is going to be Cam Reddish. That's a guy who has had some ups and downs in his career, has had some great games this year. Certainly if you're looking for a good young player, Cam Reddish could be your guy. And he's also due a contract extension. And I don't know if the Hawks can spend much more money. So I would look for possibly a shakeup involving Reddish. They could talk with some other players. I think they're looking to attach Solomon Hill to a deal so they could potentially get something more back. Danilo Gallinari maybe as well. But I would say that the Hawks are a team that's likely to do something as they continue to underachieve.
Well, especially because the last time I sat down with Trae Young, he said, I'm not going to be satisfied until we bring a championship to Atlanta. They set a high bar last season, and they're looking to avenge what happened at the end of it. And so the decision is going to be, is this current roster as constructed, as we just heard Travis Schlenk pontificate about, is it going to be one that we can win with moving forward? Brian Windhorst, thank you so much